On today's show, we'll talk about Sheldon Keefe reuniting Matthews and Marner together. Will it remain for tonight's game as the NHL returns from its holiday hiatus? And we'll talk a little bit about Fraser Minten getting a last-minute Christmas gift from John Tavares. We'll chat about all that more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. What's going on, Dave? How was your Christmas weekend, my friend?
It was relaxing, pretty relaxing, actually. A couple of busy moments, but first off, I gotta know: are you like in a spaceship or something? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I know. It's funny too because I had to do first up this morning as well from the same place, and I got similar questions. So I'm back home with the family for the holidays, and I'm doing the podcast from my brother's music studio, and for whatever reason, his light bulbs, like he has different colored light bulbs, like he can change them. I could put them back to like regular white LED, but I don't know where the remote is that does the change. So I'm kind of stuck with this weird purple vibe, but it is what it is. To be honest, this is more YouTube anyway. This is total YouTube vibe. This is what YouTubers and streamers do all the time.
Yeah, we just gotta get blue in there.
Yeah, could change it to blue. That would be more festive for the Leafers. Could go green or red potentially for the Christmas holiday. But yeah, that's is what it is, man. This is just this is what we have to work with when we're doing some vacation, and you're back home with the family, not in the typical recording spots. This is what we got to deal with today. But it's all good, buddy. It's all good. Did you enjoy your Christmas though? You had a good time with the Morassutti clan?
Of course I did. Lots of fish.
Lots of fish, lots of food, I'm sure as well. That's honestly it gets to a point where the presents and all that, like that's not what Christmas is about anymore. Like that's when you're a child. Now it's all about the good eating and time with the family. That's what Christmas is all about. In my mind, at least these days, and the presents are very tertiary at this point in time. Speaking of presents, there was a pretty cool present though that young Fraser Minten got from John Tavares, which I think was a pretty sweet present. It's one that I definitely would have enjoyed to get at some point in my life, but I'm not nearly good enough at the sport of hockey for that to happen. But Fraser Minten was named the captain of Team Canada, and it was pretty cool. He got a call from John Tavares to let him know the news. Did that surprise you to see Minten being named, the captain of the World Junior team?
Not really, because a lot of things I heard from Sheldon Keefe, from his coach back in Kamloops, and things like that. They all talk about his leadership being a big thing for him and what they like about him. So that didn't really surprise me too much. Yes, there's some very good players at this tournament, probably some more skilled players, but we're talking about a captaincy here. Now we're seeing more teams not necessarily always going with their best players as their captains, but more of the leadership type of guy.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. Like Fraser Minten, he's a 200-foot guy. He's going to be part of their power play, their penalty kill. He'll do a lot of things. I mean, the guy was in the NHL for a good portion of the year, at least to start the year. Played a few games there, a handful of games. So it makes sense. He's got captain material written all over him. Like I wouldn't be surprised if at some point if he blossoms into what we kind of expect him to blossom into in Toronto, that maybe he does get a letter himself up here in a few years, right? Like, could see him wearing an A potentially at some point for this franchise. Pretty sweet though. Like Toronto, it's been a long time since they've had anyone represent their team on Team Canada. I think Ian Scott was the last one, goaltender. Didn't end up even making the NHL. Injuries kind of derailed his career. So you'd have to go all the way back to Travis Dermott and Mitch Marner to find players who were impactful for Team Canada to, who wore the red and white maple leaf, but then also went on to wear the blue and white maple leaf. So it's been a long time since Canada's had a Leafs prospect on their squad, and the fact that now it's a guy who they chose as captain, I think is pretty sweet as a Maple Leafs fan.
Oh, of course, it's a good little humble brag for anyone that's always and all Leafs always make a big deal about things. Got the captain this year at least.
That's right. I was asked a hypothetical earlier today when I was producing the morning show on TSN 1050. Matthew Cause posed this question to Carlo and I, and he said, if you could choose what you would prefer, either Fraser Minten and Easton Cowan to light up the World Juniors, but Canada doesn't medal, or Canada gets gold and Minten and Easton Cowan are kind of, tertiary players while doing it, which would you prefer?
Man. I mean, I'm always a big on Canada winning, because the thing is with the tournament like this, you can't get overexcited about a player's performance, whether good or bad. Like, we've seen players go through this tournament, look absolutely terrible, but then go on to have good NHL careers. Like, Mitch Marner did not have a great World Juniors from what I remember. Like, he was decent, but he wasn't like putting up great performances. Then you look at, I've seen how many countless players go through this tournament looking like superstars and then mount to nothing in the NHL. Like, I think Angelo Esposito is like the one guy I always remember thinking, oh, I'd love for the Leafs to draft this guy. And
yeah. Cody Hodgson, I remember, had an unbelievable year. He broke a record or something like that. The one season that they won gold, and then he didn't turn out to be that great of an NHLer.
Do I dare to bring up the Leafs reference here?
Justin Pogge. Justin Pogge. Yep. So good. They said, we don't need Tuukka Rask. We have Justin Pogge in the ranks.
Team Canada star.
Tough move for the Maple Leafs. Yeah. You didn't have to bring that up, Dave. You didn't have to bring that up.
But it's a good example of, you know what? I'd rather than just have success in the tournament, whether it's team success, doesn't let Canada win.
I mean, there's a good chance, it was a hypothetical, but ultimately there's a good chance that, if Canada's having success, these guys are going to be part of it, right? Like, we're talking about two guys who are in the top 6 here for this Canadian team. And look, they started off the tournament with a win over Finland yesterday, 5-2 victory. And sure, Minten and Cowan didn't hit the score sheet, but it was, when you're talking about Canada, it's always such a deep squad that you can get scoring, throughout the lineup. And yesterday it was a lot of the fourth line guys who kind of led the way for Canada against Finland. But at some point, they're going to lean on the big boys once they start playing some of these bigger games. And I think that's when Fraser Minten's going to kind of shine and show that, hey, I'm, here for a reason. I'm the captain of this team. And, I'm going to show you all what I'm all about. And I think that'll come at some point. Maybe it comes today, right? Canada getting set to play again. So it's back-to-back for Canada to start the season, to start the tournament. They had Finland yesterday. They won 5-2. We got Latvia today at 1 o'clock as well. Should be able to dispose of the Latvians pretty easily, though, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, Latvia didn't exactly get off to a great start to the tournament. And this World Juniors has already been I mean, it's been a little bit unpredictable. I think Finland lost to Germany was like that kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, Canada against Latvia, it's usually
Well, there sometimes Latvia can put up like a good fight, like if they get a good goalie. Like I know this wasn't World Juniors, this was more Olympics, but remember Christoph's Godlewski's in the Olympics back in like 2014, damn near beat Canada. It was like a 2-1 final, I think, and it was like,
I thought
what
that
the hell is going on?
Ice after that game because I remember he like got peppered with shots.
Oh yeah, like 50, 60 shots or something like that. It was insane. So you never know if you get a good goalie on the other side. Canada's been known to get goalied from time to time throughout their long tenured history, but hopefully they can take care of business, and maybe we'll see one of Leafs prospects, Fraser Minten and Easton Cowan, hit the score sheet tonight. All right, also tonight, Leafs Sens reigniting the Battle of Ontario. We'll get to it. We'll preview that and talk a little bit about the top 6 shakeup we've seen in Toronto as well. So it's all that and more on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all in pricing, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. With zone deals, you pick the section. Gametime picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. You can also find exclusive flash deals on sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, hockey, comedy, theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. We have new shows coming out each and every day, Monday through Friday. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts at. You can also find us up on YouTube as well. So we got the Battle of Ontario reigniting tonight in Toronto. But what we saw happen over the course of the weekend, Dave, I guess we really haven't had a show either to chat about the Columbus game. Nice to see them bounce back. It was kind of a must win for them after the performance that they put forth on the Thursday prior against Buffalo, where they got just embarrassed and spanked. So they did come out and they did put up the mandatory win, so that they didn't go into the holiday break on a sour note. But one thing that did happen that we didn't really necessarily expect was for Sheldon Keefe to make some, pretty big changes within the top 6. Like we did see, the defensive pairs go back, which we expected to see. But then we also saw Matthews and Marner kind of get reunited together and remain that way. Do you think this is something that we're going to see now? Like, are they back for a while here? Is it going to get a good run with Matthews, Marner, and then the Tavares and Nylander pairing?
I think so. I mean, it always feels like Sheldon Keefe is just itching to get those two back together. Like he tries them apart. We're like, yeah, he's finally done it. Good. We're gonna see these two guys apart. And Sheldon Keefe's like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Got to get them back together. So I think you're gonna see this go for a bit. I think after that loss to Buffalo, look, any change, it'd be hard to say, like they shouldn't change anything. Well, they lost pretty badly. Now, was that change going to be the thing that turns the team around? I don't think so. I like Auston Matthews was scoring. It's not like Auston Matthews wasn't playing well without Mitch Marner, right? So I didn't get the decision at the time. I just think this is Sheldon Keefe doing what he usually does, which is he's going to put them back together whenever he has that feeling he needs to see them back together again.
Yeah, and just after the night, in Buffalo, they figured we got to make it happen now, right? There's the way that he likes to do things is in blocks, it seems like. And I've heard him talk about that before. There's like chunks of the season where he likes to try things. And I feel like, the chunk of the season where he wanted them apart was probably coming to an end coming out of the Christmas break anyway. And the fact that they had that stinker against Buffalo, he probably said, all right, let's just put them together for this final game in Columbus, and then we'll roll with it for a little bit afterwards. And we are going to see that tonight against the Ottawa Senators, based off of the practice lines we saw this morning. And it was a full practice, since it's the first time that the team's been able to get out on the ice since the game against Columbus with the hiatus underway. But yeah, it looks like Matthews and Marner will be skating together alongside Matthew Nyes. Or do you have it pulled up? Is that what you're about to try and pull it up there?
Pulling it up right now.
Okay. And then, John Tavares going to get set up once again with his main man, William Nylander, with Tyler Bertuzzi. And look, hey, Bertuzzi's been playing some great hockey alongside Tavares and Marner. So hopefully he can continue that tonight with Tavares and Nylander. The third line and fourth line remains unchanged, though. We got Nick Robertson, Domi, and Yarncroc, with McMahon, David Camp, and Noah Gregor at manning the third and the fourth line. So it's really just the swap of Marner and Nylander. That's really all we see here. A little shakeup going back to what the original lines kind of looks like for this group for a little bit. We'll see if it can turn into some success tonight against the Senators. The blue line also kind of switched back to where they had their success before randomly Keefe decided, let's see what Riley and Liljegren looks like. Let's put McCabe on the right, Brody on the left. We'll put Timmins out there with Benoit. And it did not work out well at all. So, again, switching back to what has worked this year with Riley Brody as the top pair, McCabe and Liljegren as the second pair, and then Benoit Lagesson as the third pair. So looks like Connor Timmins might find himself out of the lineup tonight unless they go 11-7, which I don't anticipate happening. So it looks like Lagesson and Benoit are going to get the task there over Connor Timmins tonight. Why don't we take another quick break? We'll come back, and then let's just tee up tonight's game. We'll do a quick preview with Leafs and Sens, and then get into our 3 keys to victory for the Maple Leafs. So we'll do that on the other side. But first, a word from our show sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NHL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NHL season. FanDuel, official partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti, your hosts here at Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leafs-centric podcast. The Battle of Ontario reignites tonight with the Leafs hosting the Ottawa Senators. And, both teams ended up going into the Christmas break with a victory. The Sens finally getting their first win under Jacques Martin as they defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins in overtime the other night just before heading out on the Christmas hiatus. So, the Sens, they're finally feeling okay. Could you imagine if they rode like a 6-7 game losing streak into the holiday break and then having to come and play in Toronto as their first game back? That would have just sucked for that squad.
Do you remember the last time the Leafs and Sens played each other coming off a holiday break? And the Leafs...
the Leafs won 6-0, I believe. Jack Campbell got a shutout.
Yeah. And
Am I correct?
Yeah, and I think Matt Murray was in net for the Sens in that game. Because this would have been... Actually, I think...
Yeah. Yeah. Would have been COVID here. Yeah, because Murray and Campbell never played together.
Yeah. So I just remembered that because when you brought this up, because when I watched I watched a bit of the Sens game when I was watching Leaf game on Saturday. Sens had a lead, then they blew the lead against the Penguins.
They've had a lead literally like almost every single game on that losing streak. They had a lead and just completely blew it.
Yeah.
Just blew it.
So I remember, and then Stützle goes and wins it in overtime. So, like, the Senators play with a lot of fire, let's just say.
Yeah.
The lead is safe with that team. And I wonder how long it's going to take for Jacques Martin to fix that, because you know that Jacques Martin is not going to stand for his team blowing that many leads. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see if it does happen. But I expect the sense of it's going to take time with the new coach, and they're trying to weed out the bad, and that sometimes that does take time. But the Sens team is vulnerable defensively, to say the least.
Yeah, and it's not that like their blue line's terrible. It's just like they don't have guys who are willing to play that 200-foot game. It's kind of what Babcock used to always talk about here in Toronto. Sometimes we see the Leafs play that way, sometimes we don't. And typically when Toronto plays Ottawa, right? Ottawa always gives them a good run for their money, and it's because they do play physical. They take away time and space. And Toronto, it's whether or not they, want to play that style that night, whether or not they have success, right? When they won a couple weeks ago, they were willing to play that way. They were willing to go to where you have to score goals, and they're willing to play a little bit of defense and willing to, skate a little more to create their ice. But we did see a game earlier this year. I was in the building for it where they lost 6-3, and they were brutal that night. So it's been a little Jekyll and Hyde for the Maple Leafs. And for Toronto tonight to win against this Sens team, like, you got to make sure that you're skating. Like, that's the number one key, I think, for tonight. Make sure that you're skating on both sides of the ice, defensively and offensively, because this is a Sens team that will try and take away your space. So you got to make sure that you continue to skate and try and create more and more for yourself. But, conversely, take away their space, right? Make sure that you close on them. Make sure that you have, tight gaps defensively. Like, this is a team that, has a little bit of speed. They can try and score on the rush. Make sure you're staying in front of them, right? But don't give them too much space. So, I think that there's going to be a couple of really keys for the Maple Leafs tonight to come out and win. Luckily, I know this works out for both teams, but, these guys are fresh, right? So tired legs should not be a problem. You should have a little bit of excess energy after the being off for 4 days. So hopefully that bodes well for Toronto tonight.
Yeah, and with a team like Ottawa, you got to make them defend. That's something. When you looked at the last game that the Leafs played Ottawa was the better team on the ice when you look at the chances and things like that. But what sunk the Senators was they weren't detailed in their own end. They allowed chances that they shouldn't have allowed, and the Leafs capitalized. So if you're going to play, you're not going to be able to play the run and gun style with the Sens team. They are, as you said, they're got a lot of explosive players. So you got to force them to play a 200-foot game. And they did. The Sens didn't do that last time, and they got caught for it.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be key for tonight's game. What's another key, Dave?
I think a good start from Martin Jones, because it looks like he's the starter. He's going to be the starter for as long as they feel it's necessary. He's got to make sure that the Sens team doesn't get a lot of confidence going early on.
Yeah, man, isn't that weird to say? Like, the Leafs right now have to have a lot of faith in Martin Jones. With the way that Samsonov's played, it's nearly unplayable right now. And Joseph Woll's out. A lot of pressure on Martin Jones to succeed here in Toronto. Came in as a third goalie, thought, okay, there could be an opportunity. Whether you see somebody struggle or an injury pop up, maybe I get back up with the big club. And he has. And, well, whether he's won a starting job for now or he's been given a starting job because Samson's been so terrible, however you want to slice it. He does have to be the man right now in the pipes for the Maple Leafs. So absolutely, he's going to have to play really, really well tonight. Last thing for me is got to make sure that you take advantage of this Senators' terrible penalty kill. 31st in the league, a 71% kill rate. Toronto, if they can end up getting, a couple of power plays tonight, make Ottawa take penalties on you by skating again, bringing up skating as one of those keys tonight. Get to the power play 3, 4, 5 times tonight. Should be able to score 1 or 2 goals. And hey, anytime you can win in the special teams battle, it's a good chance you can end up leaving with 2 points. And I think that's going to be another key for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you're it's moments like that in the game that can play a big factor. The Sens, a lot of new changes that they're making here, and the penalty kill hasn't been a forte for them, as you said. So, and the Leafs power play has actually been pretty decent, right? Auston Matthews, getting a lot of those opportunities. One thing I'd like to see is the second unit get a little more time.
Yeah.
We see that they're able to, even if they don't score, they're able to get some really good opportunities and at least give the top guys some time. Now, I get it. You want to get your best guys out there all the time, but I also like to see other guys be put in the situations where they feel like they can get those opportunities as well.
Well, and like if you look at how much time that their big boys have played so far this year, like it's enormous. Now they've played a lot of overtime, obviously, which adds a couple more minutes to their ice totals. But like to be playing 23, 24, 25 minutes a night is kind of insane. And yeah, a good way to kind of limit that is to maybe shave off 45 seconds, per power play for the second unit. And look, in the years past, I think it's warranted. They didn't really have a good second unit, but there's some depth now. Like you've got Tyler Bertuzzi on that PP2. You've got Max Domi on the second power play. You've got, Connor Timmins was there. I'm sure Liljegren will probably take the spot on the second unit up top right now. But, there are players who can score and find some offense on the power play on that second unit that maybe wasn't there in the past. So I think, it's twofold. Yes, you can try and save a little bit of ice time, shave it off, 45 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, over the span of a few power plays from the big boys. And, that adds up, right? Like a minute and a half per game is going to add up and keep your team a little bit fresher down the stretch. So, yeah, I think that totally is something that maybe Sheldon Keefe should toy with here as we get to the middle portion of the season. And now he knows, like, they're trustworthy, right? They've generated some chances. We should give them a little bit of a longer look out there on the man advantage. They've been able to come through a couple of times with some goals for this club. Pepper the goalie, another one. Just pepper the goalie. Do we have a starter yet for Ottawa tonight? Whether it's Anton Forsberg or their free agent signing that they made, blanking on the name right now. Korpisalo. Jonas Korpisalo, yeah.
It looks, let's see.
Because, like, Korpisalo's been pretty brutal.
Was in the starters net, so it sounds like it's Korpisalo.
And he's been brutal this year. Like, this guy's, like, goals against is chilling in, the high threes right now, 880 save percent. Like, he's been very poor this season for the Ottawa Senators between the pipes. So, again, shoot everything you can at him. Let's shoot a bunch of pucks towards this guy. And, they've been finding the back of the net more times than not. So, that's another key. Just put the goalie under pressure, put him under siege, and, there should be some goals to be had for the Maple Leafs tonight. All right. Any other final comments you want to make before we take off here?
Sounds like Mark Giordano is close. Sheldon Keefe did say he is close, but not ready to go. They want to see him in another full practice to see if he is ready to go. So he's not going to be coming back tonight. Could maybe be back in the Leafs upcoming back-to-back that they have this weekend.
Would be ideal to get him back for maybe the Saturday game. that they've got. That I think that would be an ideal spot for him to return to the lineup. Also give somebody a night off, get a fresh leg out there for the second night of a back-to-back. Okay, perfect. Good little update on Mark Giordano as well. 7 o'clock puck drop tonight in Toronto. Leafs hosting the Ottawa Senators. I believe it's going to be a Sportsnet game on TV, radio. You can listen to it. What's that?
It's the next gen game tonight.
Oh, that's right. It is the next gen game. There was very little promotion about this. Is this just me?
The only thing I saw was just that clip they put out with Shanahan, the commercial with Shanahan and all the kids acting, hanging around.
Isn't the next gen game usually like a 2 p.m. afternoon start? Like, isn't that part of it? It's like an afternoon game and
game where it's in the afternoon, but they usually have an evening one too. But usually it's an afternoon one. So yeah, this whole thing kind of threw me off a little bit too.
Hey, if there's one guy who lights it up in the next gen games, it's who, Dave? Mitchell Marner. That's right. So, hey, if you're on FanDuel, maybe consider a little sprinkle on Mitchie Martin sauce tonight to have a night, perhaps. Matthews is also looking to score in his eighth straight game, so might also be a decent anytime goal wager as well. It's been one of the best bets on the board for all of December. All right, buddy. We'll take off, and that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like and a comment down below if you enjoyed the podcast and you're watching on YouTube. You can also leave a review if you're listening to us on Apple iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated as well. We'll be back with another episode for you guys. Tomorrow, we'll recap the game against the Sens, recap Canada, who plays Latvia this afternoon as well. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.